Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling leadership, and we like to switch things up here. We're going way beyond the usual how to get promoted stuff. We're getting to the really fascinating ideas of Simon Sinek.
Yeah, he's someone who can really make you rethink things.
Absolutely, ever heard of him?
Oh, for sure. He's really well known, kind of famous even, for turning the whole idea of leadership on its head. What makes Sinek so interesting is that he comes at it from this unexpected place, cultural anthropology.
Okay, so not your typical business guru.
Not even close. Cultural anthropology, it's all about understanding how people act in different societies, their patterns, their beliefs. It's like he's found this hidden code to what makes us tick. And that's so key to his whole approach to leadership.
So instead of telling us what to do, he's figuring out why we do things.
Exactly. He's all about that why. Why do entire companies act the way they do? And more importantly, how can understanding that why make you a better leader?
I like it already. So we're not just talking Leadership 101 here.
No way. We're digging into the good stuff. We've got these awesome excerpts from an interview where Sinek really breaks this down. And to add another layer, we've got this great overview of, like, traditional leadership to compare it to.
Almost like holding them side by side.
Yeah, and what you realize is that Sinek's way of thinking is just completely different. Like, he even talks about how his own creative process is kind of all over the place, not this linear step-by-step thing.
Really? So how does he work then?
He's more about diving into a ton of information and just letting the patterns emerge naturally. It's not about having a rigid plan from the get-go.
Huh. So he's the type who spreads out all the puzzle pieces and stares until he sees the picture.
Kind of, yeah. He's even said he goes through phases of guilt and self-loathing in his process, which sounds rough, but hey, it obviously works for him. The takeaway here is that good ideas often come from being okay with not knowing everything right away and being open to trying things out, experimenting.
That's cool, because we tend to think of great leaders as always having it figured out, right? Confident, organized, decisive.
Sure, and those are definitely good qualities to have, but Sinek's saying there's another way to approach it, a way that's more about embracing the unknown.
Which makes a lot of sense when you think about how much uncertainty there is in the world, especially these days.
Yeah.
Being able to adapt and adjust is huge.
Absolutely, and this whole idea actually ties into his views on education, which, let me tell you, he is very passionate about.
Oh, well, so.
Sinek believes that somewhere along the line, universities have lost sight of their why.
Their why. Okay, now I need some clarification. What does it even mean when we're talking about, like, colleges and universities?
It all comes down to purpose. Sinek argues that instead of sticking to their core mission educating students, sparking curiosity, a love of learning, too many universities are getting caught up in, well, fundraising and operating more like businesses.
Ah, I see. He's saying the focus has shifted from the students to the bottom line.
Right. Prioritizing profits over the why, the true purpose of higher education.
And that's got to have some major consequences, don't you think? Not just for the universities themselves, but for everyone involved, especially the professors.
He gets into that a lot, actually. He's really critical of how this shift towards a more corporate mindset is stifling innovation in teaching. Like, instead of being encouraged to create these engaging, inspiring courses, professors are feeling pressure to churn out research papers.
Because that's how you climb the ladder in academia.
Right.
Publish or perish.
Exactly. It's the system that rewards a certain kind of output over something that Sinek sees as much more valuable, actually connecting with students and fostering a true love of learning.
It's like we're prioritizing metrics over meaning.
It's a really important point, and it's not just limited to academia, Sinek sees this happening everywhere, this move towards efficiency, often at the expense of something more human. He even uses this really powerful example from, get this, the Marine Corps, to illustrate it.
Okay, now that's not something you hear every day. The Marines. Tell me more.
So there was a time when if a Marine wanted to make changes to their death benefits, like who would get what if something happened to them.
Right. Important stuff.
Absolutely. They had to go through this very specific process, sit down face to face with a commanding officer, fill out some paperwork. It was a conversation, a moment of connection.
I can see how that could be really revealing, maybe even life-saving in some cases.
That's exactly Sinek's point. It wasn't the most efficient system, sure, but it served this vital purpose. Then they decided to digitize everything to streamline it.
So no more personal interaction, just fill out a form online.
Yep. And on the surface, it probably seemed like a good idea, right? making things easier, more efficient. But here's the thing.
Uh-oh, this is where it gets heavy, isn't it?
One of the most common times a Marine would update their beneficiaries right before taking their own life.
Oh, wow. That's that's really tough to hear.
It is, and it's a perfect example of what Sinek is talking about. By removing that human element, that chance for connection, they might have missed crucial opportunities for intervention. Sometimes progress, or at least what we think of as progress, comes with hidden costs.
That's a lot to process. Just because we can automate everything doesn't mean we should, right?
Exactly. It's about asking those tough questions. Are we sacrificing connection for the sake of efficiency? And if so, is it worth it? What are we really optimizing for here? These are things we need to be thinking about all the time, especially in higher ed.
It makes you wonder how much we're missing when we prioritize getting things done as quickly as possible.
It's all about balance, right? Finding ways to embrace innovation without losing sight of what makes us human. Which actually leads perfectly into Sinek's whole thing about leadership. If universities are struggling with their why, who does he think should step up and lead the way?
Yeah, who does he think? Because it's easy to say someone should do something, but actually stepping up, that's a different story.
Well, Sinek has this pretty radical idea about leadership. He says, it's not about your job title or how much authority you have, it's a choice. Anyone can choose to be a leader.
I love that. It's not about waiting for someone to give you permission. It's about deciding to lead from wherever you are.
He has this phrase, be the leader you wish you had. So instead of complaining about bad leaders, he's saying, be the change you want to see.
Okay, that makes sense, but how do you actually do that, especially if you're not in a position of power? Like, say you're just starting out in your career.
Sinek would say, start by looking around at your own little corner of the world. Your team at work, your family, your friends. Ask yourself, what kind of leadership would make a real difference here? What would make things better? And then do that.
So it's about focusing on what you can control, your own actions and behaviors.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is, Sinek has found that these small acts of leadership, they have a way of catching on. He calls it the tail wagging the dog. Like positive leadership at any level of an organization, it can actually create change from the bottom up.
So you don't have to be the CEO to make a real impact. Just leading by example in your own world can make a difference.
Totally. It's about being the change you want to see, even if it seems small. And speaking of change, we can't talk about Sinek without mentioning his thoughts on millennials.
Right, because that's a whole other conversation. His talk on millennials blew up a few years ago.
It did. And look, whether you agree with everything he says or not, I think his perspective is worth thinking about, especially for those of us who work in education and are interacting with this generation all the time.
And the thing is, he's not just dismissing them as entitled or whatever other labels people like to throw around. He's trying to understand the why. Why are millennials the way they are? What shaped their worldview?
Which is so important. It's about understanding the context. Empathy over judgment.
So what are some of his key insights?
Well, he talks a lot about the impact of technology, which makes sense. This is the first generation to grow up with the internet and social media as such a constant presence in their lives.
And that's a double-edged sword for sure. It's opened up a lot of opportunities, but it's also brought on a whole new set of challenges.
Exactly. And Sinek acknowledges that. He points out how addictive technology can be, how it creates this pressure to always be on, how it fuels comparison and competition. It's no wonder so many young people are struggling with things like anxiety and loneliness.
It's like they're living in a pressure cooker.
In a lot of ways they are. And I think it's crucial to keep that in mind when we're talking about leadership, about how to motivate and inspire this generation. What worked for previous generations isn't necessarily going to work for them.
Right. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
We need to meet them where they are.
And a big part of that is recognizing the importance of genuine human connection. In a world that's increasingly digital, where everything's happening online, we have to be even more intentional about creating opportunities for real face-to-face interaction.
You know what else really struck me about Sinek's perspective?
What's that?
It's not just about millennials, right? This whole thing about being intentional about connection, it applies to all of us. Especially now, when everything feels so fast-paced, so impersonal.
Yeah, totally. We can get so caught up in the day-to-day that we forget to actually, connect with the people around us.
Exactly. And that reminds me of another big theme in Sinek's work that we haven't really touched on yet. The idea of service, of helping others.
Oh, absolutely. He talks a lot about finding purpose and joy through service.
It's interesting, right? No matter what we're discussing, leadership, technology, even education, It always seems to come back to this idea of connection, of making a difference in the lives of others.
It's this fundamental human need, to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Totally. And Sinek makes this great distinction between happiness and joy.
Oh, yeah. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Happiness is fleeting. It's that rush you get when you accomplish a goal or buy something you've been wanting.
Been there.
Right. But joy is different. Joy goes deeper.
It's about finding meaning in those everyday moments,
Yeah.
in the connections we build, in giving back to others.
Exactly. And he's a big believer that even the smallest acts of service can create a ripple effect, bringing joy not just to others, but to ourselves as well.
It's like that saying, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Gandhi. Right.
Yeah, it's about showing up every day and asking, how can I be of service? How can I make someone's day a little bit brighter?
And you don't need some grand plan or some big platform to do that. It can be something as simple as helping a coworker with a project or calling up a friend who's going through a rough time. It's those little things, those everyday acts of kindness that can make all the difference.
Small acts, big impact. I love
Yeah.
that. It's about changing our mindset from what's in it for me to how can I be of service?
And that shift in perspective, that's leadership too.
Oh, totally. It's about leading with empathy, with a genuine desire to make a positive impact.
Exactly. And the best part is, it's something we can all do, regardless of our job title or how much power we think we have.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, where do we go from here? How do we take all of these amazing insights from Sinek and actually apply them to our own lives?
Well, I think it starts with a simple question. What's one small act of service you can do today to brighten someone else's day? It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment or lending a listening ear. It's about those small, everyday gestures that remind us we're all connected.
Love it. Because sometimes the smallest actions can have the biggest impact. It's about shifting our focus from ourselves to others, from achieving success to being of service. And as Sinek reminds us, that's where we often find the most meaning, the most joy.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think we'll leave you with this final thought from Sinek himself. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge.
So as you go about your day today, ask yourself, how can I take care of the people in my life? How can I lead with love, with empathy, with a genuine desire to make a positive impact? Because the world needs your leadership in all its forms. That's it for our deep dive today. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating conversation.